Hi, I'm Jim Turner, and today we're in Chapter 3 of How to Choose the Perfect E-Bike. This chapter is on how to compare motors and what is power. Now, we all know what power in our cars is. We have horsepower, right? We got 200, 400, 500 horsepower in our car. Now, e-bikes talk about power in watts. And the relation watts is the metric unit. So you can see 746 watts equals 1 horsepower. So you can see from that e-bikes don't have a lot of power when compared to a car, but they do a huge amount with that little power, and that's why they're so great. So one of the things people get confused with is they ask me, what is torque and power? They think that they're the same or something. But torque is in Newton meters, which is another metric system nomenclature. It means absolutely nothing to most people. But what is torque and what is power? So torque on an e-bike is the ability to turn those pedals. You take off from a stop and you want to get going, you have more torque, you go faster, the pedals start to turn, and you accelerate faster. So torque helps you accelerate. But what is power? Well, power is that torque times RPM. And that's what determines power. Now power, how much power you have, is going to determine how fast you can go up a hill. So torque determines how fast you can accelerate, but power is how fast you can go up the hills. So remember that when you're comparing, because you'll see both these terms in e-bikes listed. Okay, so now we're going to talk about motors, because there's two main types of motors in e-bikes today. There's a mid-drive, where the motor is mounted in the center of the bike where the pedals are, and that goes through the gear system on the bicycle. The other type is a hub motor, and that is in the rear wheel typically, some are in the front wheel, and it drives the wheel direct. One of the main differences between the mid-drive and the hub motor is the mid-drive uses the gear system of the bicycle. This lets it change the torque, we talked about torque earlier, so you can accelerate and climb hills better, and you have more variation in the ability of the motor to go different terrain. So that's the advantage of the mid-drive, is you have a greater ability over versatile terrain, versus the hub motor is a little more restricted. It's great if you have a consistent terrain, like if you're always on the flat ground. But typically hub motors, when you start to climb hills, they get very inefficient, often overheat, and they just don't cut it like a mid-drive does. So that's Chapter 3 on motors, and we look forward to seeing you in Chapter 4.